Hey everyone, and welcome to another Teamwrkr workshop. And today we have our awesome community manager, Kristen, who is going to educate us and inform us about how to be a better public speaker. And the title of this is Power Public Speaking. So I'm not even going to water that down. I'm going to turn it over to Kristen right now. Welcome, Kristen.
Hi, Phil. Thanks so much. And thank you, Greg, for joining us. I'm going to share my screen right now as best as I possibly can. And we're rocking and rolling, and here we are. Does this look right to you?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, fabulous. All right, welcome everyone. I'm Kristen. Today, we're not just going to be public speaking, we're going to be power speaking. And I mean it when I say strike a power pose. So get into some position, and in 3, 2, 1, strike a power pose. Yes. I love it. Do you notice how we all like shift our weight like this? Isn't that fun? So we'll talk more about that, but thank you for playing along. And for those of you watching at home, I hope you also strike a power pose. But we'll move on for now, and then I'll check in. So a little bit about why we've gathered here today. So we're going to take this one step at a time. While I go through my introduction, I wanted to ask you to think of 3 words that describe you. And you often get this prompt, but I'm going to throw in a twist. I'd like you to think of 3 words that start with the same letter. I only say this really because I like alliteration a lot, and you're about to see my my own introduction be made up of an alliteration. So, who am I? Who are you? Why are we here? Let's get it. Let's go. Here are my big 3. I would say that a big reason why I'm so comfortable with public speaking outside of the way that my mother has encouraged us to speak and form our thoughts as we were growing up is because I performed a lot when I was growing up. So here's one or a couple of different examples. I performed a lot. So being on stage made me very comfortable. It had to make me very comfortable with putting myself out there and also being able to express myself, not only in the words, but also in my body language. So one of the big things that our directors would say when we were performing or rehearsing or running through lines is take up space, right? So how are you communicating different things outside of just the words you use, right? So it means, okay, walk across the stage, walk that way, walk this way, walk up and walk down, right? Get comfortable with it and be comfortable with how you exist in this stage that you're in, or even the space that you're in, right? Whether that's on a podium or if it's in a gymnasium or even if it's in your own office at home, right? These are all things that help raise awareness of not only our speech, but also ourselves. The next thing is politics. There's a cheeky little Zoom photo of me and Hillary Clinton. There are not as many pictures of me speaking with people, mainly because I'm too busy speaking with people. But this is another way that I was able to practice my public speaking. So I have introduced different national leaders before. I've spoken with different politicians, people who were very active in local government, and also folks who were very big on a national scale. And all of this is to say that being able to formulate your thoughts in front of someone who often hears people speak and is very eloquent themselves encourages you to think through all the different parts you want to say, especially if you only get 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes in an elevator with them. It's very good. I mean, literally in an elevator. It's very good to be able to learn how to make small talk, learn how to calm yourselves, especially when you have something important that you want to get through. And often when we're public speaking, there is something important that we want to share. I'm noticing in all these, I wear a lot of blue. So I'm finding trends in the colors that I feel comfortable and powerful in. The last thing is people. Hold on. Whoa. What happened? I have one more photo. I think it's gone now. But you saw a couple of screenshots in the meantime. Let's see one more time. Oh yeah, there we go. There we are. All right. This is, of course, the Zoom screenshots of some of the different workshops that Teamwrkr has hosted. So we've got performing, politics, and people. I'm thinking through my behavior and also myself, and I would also often say like, oh, I love people. But the truth is, it's not just like, it's hard to love all people, but I do revere all people. I do have a reverence for people in general, because I think that there's so much nuance to folks. There's so much depth that they can share with you. And it's really just a matter of if you are able to build a dynamic of trust between one and many people, or one-on-one, that you're able to get to the crux of who they are. And that's when you really get to connect. Now, who are you? Who are you? All right, we will be, I mean, I won't force anyone, but if you want to turn your mics off, if you want to just add yourself to the chat box, which I realize I cannot see, but someone will read out to me. Answer a couple of these questions. When do you feel most confident when speaking? When do you feel least confident? And try to dissect what it is about those two instances that excites you, makes you nervous. And then, of course, I'll be coming back to those 3 words, that alliteration that you've prepared for me. So, shall we go with the alliteration first? Are we feeling ready? You feeling prepared?
Great.
All right. Okay. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
All right. Phil, will you start us off with your alliteration?
Sure. I'm happy to. I'd say the 3 words that kind of describe me, maybe not always when public speaking, but now that I'm thinking about it, probably would be introverted, even though I spend a lot of my time out doing things by nature and by the sort of, I guess, Myers-Briggs or whatever those tests are. I would be an introvert. So I do need to expend energy to get out there. It's not the natural thing for me to be an extrovert. I am inquisitive, so I am often just seeking to learn stuff. And sometimes it's just for the sake of learning, and sometimes it's for applying it. And so my very inquisitive, so I like to hear from other people. As you said, your people, in terms of revering people, I think you can always learn something from people. So that's my inquisitive nature. And then lastly, I'm a pretty intense person. So when I'm doing something, I want to be really involved in it. And so that last I is just sometimes it can be great, and sometimes it can be a little overwhelming for people I'm working with. So I'm introverted, I'm inquisitive, and I'm intense. Those are my eyes.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing, and also that breakdown. I also think it's quite fun to see which letters people lean into, right? And you were like, I'm going with I, which I think which makes sense, right? Like, you're thinking about I, you're thinking about yourself, and then break it down. Greg, what have you for me?
I chose the letter E. I feel like I am engaged. I always like to know what's going on. A lot of times my wife will say, "Why do you even care about that?" And it's like, I don't know, because I want to be a part of it, or I want to know what's going on. So I would say engaged. This one's kind of boring, I guess, but I would say entrepreneurial. I've started numerous businesses in my career, most of which didn't really get off the ground until my current one. So, but yeah, I would say entrepreneurial. And then I kind of came up short. I'm not really sure whether I wouldn't characterize myself as like exciting or anything like that. So maybe just egghead, because not only like the shape of the head, but I love trivia and just facts and figures and stuff like that. So I'll say egghead.
I love that. I also love that you just wove in a little part of yourself that we at Teamwrkr don't usually get exposed to, right? It's also your sense of humor. And you being able to bring in some physical humor, and also a little bit about yourself, which is that you're very good at trivia and you love trivia, which is excellent, because I'm very bad at it. I'm very bad at it. I've been mocked, I've been ridiculed, been kicked off tables. So I'm gonna need I'm gonna need Greg's skills to call upon. Okay, that's small aside, which is how do you keep up with all this trivia?
Well, I think it's just, I watch Jeopardy every day. Um, I was on quiz bowl teams and college bowl teams for as far back as literally I can remember. I think like the first team that I was on was in 3rd grade. So I've been fortunate to be in schools that have those programs. I've even coached a junior high school team. So yeah, I mean, when we were in college, we were forced. I probably have my folder over there in the corner. we were forced to keep like a folder of all the, the lists or the most common answers to certain question lead-ins and things like that. We were just literally supposed to like take a half an hour a day with our folder to just, keep strong about who were the vice presidents of all the presidents, or, things like that.
Wow.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. It's hard work,
It
Kristen.
seems hard. It's hard. I mean, it really it ties back. It ties back to one, that first letter that you that first word that you covered, which
Engaged.
is
Yeah.
engaged, right? That makes so much sense because you just want a little piece of every pie. You want to know a little bit about everything. And it also ties into the projects that I know that you're working on now, right? Where you're collecting different phrases and you're making this data, one of those words, that this database that you can call upon. And of course, it ties back into other parts of your personality as well. You're playing up to your strengths, which is really exciting. Okay. When do you, now speaking of that, now that I know that we have, a quiz master, a trivia god amongst us, I'm going to ask Greg, when do you feel most confident when speaking?
Well, quite honestly, yeah, when I'm hosting or emceeing an event or trivia. I volunteer at the U.S. Sailing Center near us, so anytime there's like a youth regatta, I'm usually on the microphone. So when it's something that is just, kind of, there's a certain pattern or you have a script to go by, I feel very confident.
Mm-hmm.
Should I go to counteract that? I mean, with least confident, it's when like somebody just out of the blue says, maybe you're at a party or something or a wedding or something, and here's a microphone, say something about so and so. I hate that because I feel like I want to be prepared. And so when I'm not prepared and just asked to, come up with something on the spot, I really feel much less confident in that sort of situation.
Mm-hmm. I think that's very understandable. Also, put somebody on the spot like that, be like, here, you say something important, is it's definitely a little nerve-wracking. Oh, I'll share that when I feel most confident, similar to what you mentioned, Greg, when I'm prepared. And I have a little script and I've been able to practice it and be able to recognize how I want something delivered, be able to come up with something fun, something punny. I think I also feel confident when when the stakes are low, right? When I'm performing before a smaller group of people that I know well, and I'm able to joke here and there, and then honestly, maybe sing a little bit, maybe act out a scene. It's for me, it almost allows me to become a different person or a different persona and be able to embody that. And like I used to do a lot of, because of I used to politic a lot. There was times when I had to be out on the street trying to flag people down to register to vote or do something. All the people that you would avoid, you know them, you've walked around them. Those are the folks that I would have to be. And it's very scary to get out there and be out there for hours, knowing that people want to avoid you. And I would essentially take on what I call like my salesperson persona, and I would almost make it feel like this was something you wanted to be approached by. This is something that you want to be talking about, right? Change the way I stand, change the way I speak. Often I like look at different people and throw out a compliment that I definitely mean, right? But it's also so that they take notice of what I'm saying, or they know that I'm just approachable. In terms of when I'm least confident, I think it's when I don't know what I'm talking about. And then I feel I stumble over my words or get nervous and feel like I'm speaking too much. And then it becomes a big problem because often when you're in these situations, and Greg, Phil, let me know if you can relate, your mouth moves faster than your thoughts can keep up. And then you've just said something that didn't maybe quite land the way you wanted to. But Phil, what do you have to say about our ups and our downs?
Yeah, I think the confidence comes, as you guys have identified, from, for me, when I'm pretty well versed with the topic. And if I don't necessarily have to prepare for it, but if someone said, oh, can you talk? I spent a lot of my life in technology or data centers or things like that, that would be sort of a specific thing. Or I have a super awesome fun puppy and she's a labradoodle, so I know, being the inquisitive person I am, I would investigated labradoodles before I got her. And so if you want to talk about labradoodles, well, I could talk for hours about labradoodles, right? I'm like versed on the topic. But and so if you right now, I wouldn't have to prepare for it, because I'm like Greg was walking around with this folder, getting prepared for the vice presidents of the United States. Like, oh yeah, who is that Polk's vice president? Gosh, I don't remember that. But but he had his folders, he was prepared, right? So he would never be caught off. Oh, I know that, I can easily speak to that. So I think that's the thing. If it's something sort of in your wheelhouse, and you don't even need to be prepared, because you're kind of always prepared. And I think also I'm least confident when I'm like the center of the presentation, if you will. I'm very happy to be an MC, like Greg said, at an event. I've been at these charity things where someone's like, oh, the MC couldn't show up, Phil, will you do it? And it's literally like 5 minutes beforehand. But all you have to have is like a little kind of one line opener and introduce the guests and whatever, you're just kind of facilitating at that point. But that's easy for me. The least confident is when you are the center of the attention. You have, and if you're not prepared, it's not in your wheelhouse, then it starts to get, like you said, you get ahead of yourself. Those are the areas that I would say.
I also like that you spoke a lot about labradoodles. You're like, I've done a lot of like, I've done extensive research.
I live with one, right?
It's true. It's true. You're like, I do share my life with a labradoodle, so I should know a thing or two. Okay. Thank you so much for sharing, you guys. I'm going to move on to the next slide. We'll talk a little bit more about how we can approach all these things. Connection. I forgot that I put this slide and it moved so quickly. So the main thing about public speaking, the way that people will overlook all the stutters, the stammers, and maybe you outpacing yourself, is establishing connection, right? How do we do that? There are a lot of ways that this can look like. But first, let's go into, can I move on? We're going to go into what are some public speaking foundations. So the way that I see connection and the way that I often see public speaking is it's a lot like landing on the moon. Oh, wait, that was the slide you were supposed to see. Let's go back. Let's see if they'll allow me that. There we are, a bit like the moon landing. So here's why. Now we'll moonwalk through. You see my puns. So first, you're going to break down how you feel. Exactly what we just did before, right? Look at, why am I anxious? What's making me nervous? And how can I avoid this, right? So you're strapped in, you're in the rocket, right? You're giving yourself a pep talk. As you prepare for takeoff, you have to think about, all right, what are the steps that I can take to make myself a more confident speaker? And for all of us, the thing that we really value is having time to prepare. As you can see in my presentation, I asked, do you think that Neil Armstrong just rolled up and landed on the moon after all the things he just did, lived through the rocket ship taking off, that he just was like very calm and cool? He's like, I got it. I know what I'm going to say. He 100% wrote this out. He may have gotten a copywriter. He vetted it through his family. He practiced it 1,000 times. And then even then, I think he still has qualms about like how he said it. But for 1 second, I would love for all of us to myself say, how do you remember that quote? The quote is, of course, like, this is one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. At least I think it is.
Yeah, I think that's it. I like your point about he probably is, and that's what he's known for in some ways. Right? I mean, that's an incredibly powerful quote, and being the first person to do it, right? But it strikes me that he paused, right? And I couldn't tell whether that, if you listen to it, you can't tell whether that's because the technology was just like not that great, or was his microphone or something like that, because he's in a spacesuit and whatever.
Yeah.
But there's one small step for man, and then there's like a dramatic kind of pause. To me, that's how I recall it. Maybe it's not true. I'd probably have to listen to it again. But I wonder if he did that. I wonder if he knew he was going to be under stress or something, because you make a great point. He didn't just like, land a little tin can on the moon and then be like, oh, I think I've come up with something really good to say here. Like,
Yeah, I think I found this historic thing that
no.
people will write in textbooks.
Especially,
I think I've landed on this.
NASA had a manual for, how to use the manual, right? I mean, that's probably
Mhm.
what they got stuff. They weren't like leaving any of that to chance, right? There's definitely a PR copywriter type of person, marketing people involved with that. So
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. So,
Greg, can you imitate that line that Neil Armstrong does on the moon?
I suppose so. And another piece of trivia, I think the original quote was supposed to be one small step for a man, but he either didn't say a or it got cut off in the transmission.
wow.
But anyway, my imitation would be, that's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Beautiful.
Yeah, well done.
And
Beautiful.
I think a lot of in that era, even Martin Luther King Jr., he was masterful at pausing between statements, or even within a particular statement, to really just amplify the delivery of what he was saying.
It's the reason why I had us imitate it. It's like, this is one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind, is because I want us to pay attention to what we remember, right? We are little, I mean, outside of Greg, he seems very short, but Phil and I, we're a little shaking on like what exactly this quote is, word for word. But what you felt and what you remembered are these dramatic pauses. You know how it felt. You even imitate the voice a little bit, very, very calm, very level. Of course, the recording is going to be a little bit fuzzy, right? And everyone almost imitates this sort of static feeling of it. There is a gravity to this. And we don't always remember the words, except for Greg. Greg knows the words and the words that weren't said. But we remember the tone. We remember the feeling of it. And that's something that we keep in mind as we engage with people, whether before a crowd or one-on-one, is that the tone, the level of your voice, the texture of your voice, these are all things that still stick with people, even more so than the literal content that we're talking about. And also to note that he possibly misspoke. I think that was he was like, I think I missed a word there. And maybe that's why he paused. He's like, God, I think I'm forgetting something. Oh, well, we're here now on the moon. So the next thing is making contact, right? Congrats, you have landed. You've successfully taken off. You've gotten there, right? Whether that's a stage or a crater. And now it's time to personalize this connection. So something that I do is, if I'm trying to engage with a person, either one-on-one or even in a large crowd, I sort of take a moment and I picture myself as them, right? I think about what they're wearing. I think about their outfit. I was like, what are they wearing? A sweater? Is it itchy? Are they hot? Right? And think about the colors they're wearing. I was like, you're wearing a really bright pink on kind of a gray day. Why? Right? And think about the seat that they're in. Maybe not so comfortable. I think about the water bottles rattling, people nervous about how tight quarters it is, all of this. And I sort of picture myself as them. And that makes connecting all the more real, all the more authentic, because now you're taking that extra step to try to be this person, right? Of course, you can't actually be this person, but it helps to imagine what their perspective of the situation is like. And as you embrace a whole crowd, the first step that you can take is embrace an individual, right? Especially in a crowd, they're often sharing similar experiences, right? They feel similar temperatures, they're feeling a sort of crampedness, they're all given these tiny pencils to write on, all of these things. So thinking to yourself, what if I was them? What if I was you? What would be my mindset? What are the questions racing through my head? And then being able to build upon that. And then finally, look up, look around. You're seeing the world before your eyes. There are stars and there are comets and there are people who might change your life that you've never met before, right? And this is a good chance to also take time to embrace the whole crowd. So a lot of people are very uncomfortable with making direct eye contact. And something that I was taught is if you can't make eye contact, then look at their eyebrows. And that gives the viewer a sense of, oh, I do feel a connection, I feel an authenticity, but you are not, staring deep into the souls of 100 people, because that can overwhelm you, and that's okay. So the next step is me clicking through this and allowing myself, will it do this? Will it allow me? Okay, here we are. 3 things to power up your voice. So these are things that I've culminated from my performance days, and also from I used to run a Toastmasters International for students, and these are a couple of tips and tricks that they would employ so that you would feel your best self. The first thing I say is find your light. So does anyone here have any exposure to the theater? If I was thinking, I was like, Greg, maybe. I was like, okay, so something that
I stopped in 6th grade. So
you're like, that was it for me. That was I had my day in the sun. So if you are ever on stage, if you ever find yourself on a really big stage where they are coordinating the lighting, they're marking, something that they'll say is find your light. So it means like find wherever this light is about to shine, they're going to find you. And when you come on stage, make sure you step into it, right? I want to make sure that everyone who speaks steps into their light. And that means that thinking through what are things that you can put in place that help you shine? What makes you feel comfortable? Is it the outfit you're wearing? Is it sitting or standing? That's a big thing. Is it the way that the stage is laid out? These are all things that you are allowed to think through, and you're allowed to control to a certain extent. I find that I feel most confident when I'm standing, actually, right? So whether that's taking pictures or creating or singing or speaking, I prefer to stand. Do I always prefer to move around and hold the microphone? No, I prefer that often to be in a fixed position. And these are all things that you can change even within your own sphere. So if you've got a big call that's coming up, test yourself. Be like, do I feel most comfortable explaining while I sit down in my ergonomic chair? Or is it that I should elevate my camera level and then walk around and feel most comfortable, most confident delivering whatever it is I'm delivering when I'm standing up and pacing about? The second thing is exactly what you folks mentioned before, is the dramatic pauses. The dramatic pauses are often utilized because you are trying to replace a filler word. So filler words, for anyone watching, are like is a lot, like this, literally, basically. So these are all different types of filler words, and those are just the ones that are more American centric. If you go into different countries will have different filler words. You'll catch it as you listen to different friends speak in different languages. They'll say they'll say it's interesting. And all of this is really an attempt to help your mind catch up with the things that you're saying. And one thing that you can do at home is to catch yourself. So whether that's with a family or a family member or a friend who listens to your speech and then counts the number of times that you say like literally, right? They'll catch that. And it's very good. It's not to be disruptive. It's just to make you aware of how often you use filler words. If you don't have anyone who can listen to you at home, you can record yourself on a voice app or anything similar. Leave yourself a voicemail, I don't know, and then catch yourself speaking all of these filler words. Catch yourself and count them. You just count them gently. And this is where I'm going to whittle it back in to include a compliment sandwich. I have come across so many people who do not speak to themselves kindly. And they can be the most generous hearted when it comes to other people, but they won't give themselves a chance. And a big part of practicing public speaking is giving yourself the leniency, cutting yourself some slack. And one tool that we would employ during my Toastmaster meetings is to use a compliment sandwich when we would give feedback to one of our members. And you say, you have to spot like, oh, you did this well. You can work on this, but really this sung out. And it's important that you learn to speak to yourself like that. Sometimes people already know, like, I feel pretty good about myself. But when you're at your lowest point and feel like things didn't go quite as well as you'd hope, it's really a critical reminder, at least I find, to remind myself of the things that I did well, the things that I did master, the things that I did keep up with, the things that I did execute. Because it's very, very, very easy to dwell on the things that didn't go quite right. And if we can be kind to others, then we can certainly be kind to ourselves. So, okay, how much time have we got? All right, I'll give us a couple minutes more. There is no time like the present. These are what we'd call table topics or just 2-minute topics. And we'd play around with it. And basically we'd time each other and say, you've got this amount of time to go ahead and make something silly, right? It's just practicing. I made this interactive. You guys can do this at home, or how did you feel? Do you want to do this now? Do you want to do one of these now? Phil's saying yes. Greg is looking pensive.
Yeah, it's hard.
Is that
Do it for 1 minute. I think I could do it for.
We'll do 1 minute? Okay, we'll do 1
I'll be
minute.
kind to myself. I'll be kind to myself there. I could probably do it for 1 minute.
Do 1 minute? All right, we can do 1 minute. Goes by faster than you think.
Yeah, probably true.
We will do 1 minute. I will set a timer. What I can take any of these. I can do it first, or unless you guys want to beat me to it. Greg's preparing in his head. I can see it.
I'm willing to go. If I can take my pick of topic.
Yeah, you go ahead.
Sure.
Greg. Yeah.
All right. I'd like to share my opinion about TikTok.
Fabulous. I will give you
Yes.
when you're at, do you want 2 minutes or 1 minute?
Probably 1 minute is enough.
1 minute? Okay. When you're at the 30-second mark, I'm going to go like this.
Okay.
And then when you're at the 15-second mark, I'm going to go like this. And then to wrap up.
Okay.
Yeah? Okay.
All right. I became exposed to TikTok through my daughter. I noticed that it was the next app of choice that she was using, and I started to use it, and I couldn't believe how addictive it was. I would find myself thinking I would spend 2 or 3 minutes on TikTok, and lo and behold, an hour later, still, diving into TikTok. My advice to someone who is starting on TikTok, and I can say this with a lot of confidence because I've created 2 TikTok accounts, one for personal use and one for business use. TikTok is extremely adept at providing you content that matches what you spend the most time watching. So if you go in and start spending a lot of time watching and engaging on sports content, your TikTok is basically going to be 90% about sports. So if you do create a business account, make sure that you don't slip into personal interests and keep watching more of what is pertinent to your trade.
Thank you so much. All right. How did that feel?
I feel like I got my general point out, but probably meandered a little bit too much and did, I think, use some filler words. I'm very guilty of using I say a lot. I don't know if that's my
a lot too.
My Midwestern upbringing, but so I mean, frankly, I think I did a good job, but certainly not a great job.
Okay. I think we need to give yourself a compliment sandwich.
Yeah.
I think you ended on a negative note, so you need to wrap up with one more nice thing. I will insist. I had that whole spiel, went on way too long, Greg, way too long about loving yourself. So one more nice thing. You got to say one more nice thing about what you did, how you performed.
I think I made it relevant to most of the viewers of this video, being that they will be entrepreneurs and freelancers. So if they're going to create a business-oriented TikTok account, I gave them that valuable insight.
I love it. Thank you for providing yourself a compliment sandwich. And I actually only caught one although I use a lot, but it felt very natural. I didn't notice that you use that as a crutch at all.
Yeah.
At all. All right,
I thought it was
Phil.
great. I thought it was great, Greg. I would actually just put one more thing at the end of that in terms of the compliment is that it wasn't just relevant, but it was informative, right? That you didn't say, okay, it's you gave a prescription. Do not do personal stuff on a business TikTok account because it's going to get filled up with your personal interests. And that's not probably, not exactly always what you want to represent to your clients, customers, prospects, whatever. Yeah. So interesting.
All right, Greg, I will allow you to choose one more between Phil and me to do the next 1 minute, and then we'll wrap up.
Right.
Oh, I get to pick who goes next?
Yeah.
Let's go with Phil next.
Ah.
Just because that's the order on my screen.
All right. Well, I'll go for 1 minute, and I will pretend that I am the mayor of Hamilton, and that Godzilla has trashed the downtown area. So I should.
All right.
Chris, is it one of these things like a get in the character?
Get in the character. Imagine, picture yourself there. Just vocal exercising. You see it now. I'll give you the same thing, 30 seconds, and then this is you're down to 15 seconds.
Sounds good.
All right.
Citizens of Hamilton, I am here today to discuss the tragedy that has befallen our city. Clearly, we all are aware that Godzilla trashed the downtown area last evening. But I'm telling you today that we as Hamiltonians can respond to this in only one way, and that's the typical Hamiltonian energy and spirit. And we're going to embrace the fact that this is actually a great thing for Hamiltonians. Our city has been in need of a makeover for quite some time. We all know the downtown area, even though it's trashed by Godzilla today, was trashed before that. What we're going to be able to do is leverage this incredible Godzilla trashing of our downtown area to revitalize and re-energize the downtown area. And I'm really appreciating your support. Right now, get on and text text whatever to 44289 and give us money for the downtown area regentrification project. Thank you, citizens.
Very good, and right on time.
I kind of got the what is it? Joe Biden was like, text Joe to 646 Joe 6. It was like something. Remember, he was really trying to raise money. And it's, I mean, how would you know? Like, he's, he's not a guy who would like, like unless someone's got that thing in front of you, you're not gonna know what to text to. You're going to speech every day, like, right? So like, or every hour in those cases. So yeah.
All right. How did that feel?
Well, it felt great because I could like act. That was acting, right? And so I kind of embraced the idea that you were like, like the Neil Armstrong thing was like, well, he was in some way he was prepared, and it was a little bit of an act because he had a script for the one line, right? So I think it could be interesting for me, and this is where I could, do a better job. Is you could be an actor, but still, in your whatever it may be, maybe you're just giving a presentation to the local school board on something that's important to you. You can still have a little bit of that acting in you. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to take it over the top and be like, let's raise money for the destroyed downtown area of Hamilton. But but I think that's probably a little bit of a lesson where you could use that spirit and bring some energy to it. I wish I would have had some more time to prepare for the closing remarks there. I would have been able to like really zing in on like, text your money to us, which is a great idea. So yeah, I felt honestly, I felt that was for not having much time to think about it, I feel like that was okay.
I'm glad. I think you got into the spirit of it. I think there is a little bit of performance in every public speaking event because it's not always so natural to get up before a crowd and then just be what you'd be like on a day-to-day basis, right? There is an element of right, how do I keep people's attention? How do I become a different version of me? And I think you had a lot of fun with it, which is really good. And I also like when you're like, text whatever to 44226.
You know what to do out there, people. Whatever you TikTokers or whatever you guys out there, get on your MySpace account and get us that money. We need to.
It's true.
Yeah, they know what to do. Yeah,
they know what to do. All right, I will wrap up here. I'm glad you folks had fun and were able to play with these different ideas. I think it's good to keep practicing just to keep sharp. When I would host these meetings, table topics was one of the most popular things that people could do, just because you stand up there and you're like, guess I'll say whatever. Guess I'll find out what's next the same time as everybody else. And that's the joy of it. I'm gonna stop my I think I'm gonna stop my share. I know. And thank you all for coming. Thank you for
Thank you,
playing
Kristen.
along with
Thank you,
me.
Kristen. Yeah, that was great. That really was quite helpful. And I love the tips there, and really appreciate you putting this on.